Remember that legendary comment Daryl Sutter made about 20 games left in the season regarding it being a waste of 8 days to play Colorado in the first round?
Mm-hmm.
Who would have known it also would have been a waste of 8 days to play the Edmonton Oilers in the second round?
Yeah, I know, eh? That's not something I was expecting at all. At all.
That series was maybe the coldest take that I have ever had in my life. I took Calgary to take that series in 5 to 6 games, especially coming out and winning game 1 9-6 and just looking like they dominated at the Edmonton Oilers at every end of the ice. I don't have much to say. Talk about the series a little bit.
Yeah. Definitely on both of our parts, we both had Calgary winning, again, for pretty logical reasons. I don't think many people know what a cold take is, if, responses to our videos or anything to judge by. But yeah, I don't really know kind of what the difference was in kind of or what happened to the Flames, because in the regular season they kind of dominated the Oilers and when they played each other, and this is a pretty good example of playoffs. There's not always that correlation. Like, it doesn't carry over from the regular season to the playoffs. This is a pretty good example of that, and even more so because we always, or the narrative coming into the series or to the playoffs in general, was that Calgary is that playoff team that will be able to get it done when it counts, and the Oilers are our regular season team who can't get it done in the playoffs, and like roles just reversed in a 5-game series.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can try to break down about this series, but we'll start off first with what we said last episode, always saying about the Edmonton Oilers, time and time again. We'll continue to say this. 2 things are really crucial for that team to be good. Number 1, Connor McDavid must play well. That seems obvious, but past Connor McDavid, there isn't much depth on that team if he isn't playing well. A lot of the offense goes through him, like Kane playing well,
Sure.
Draisaitl playing well is contingent on him playing well, is what I mean. And what happened? Finished the series with 3 goals, 12 points, +9 rating, which is very surprising. Man, 18 hits too. I think he was leading that team in hits at one point in the series. 4 multi-point games, and in total, he's got 10 out of 12 games where he's put up multi-points.
There's no words to describe that. The hit stat is probably the one that's like most shocking. I'm not surprised that you just ripped off all those point stats, but he wants it this year. He's on a mission. He's going to take that team by the scruff of the neck and say, we're going as far as possible this year. Right?
Yeah, you talk about him wanting it. Listen to this. Points, primary assists, passes, primary shot assists, primary chance assists, high danger passes, shots off the rush, shots assists off the rush, shots assists off the cycle, zone entries, possession entries. I can keep going. He's first in all of those categories in the playoffs.
Playoff wide.
Yeah.
Whole league.
Playoff wide.
Wow.
Connor McDavid is pulling might get the year wrong, but the 2016 LeBron, where he carried that team
that when he came back
to a championship and won 3-1. If you took LeBron off that team, they are a fringe playoff team.
Yeah.
And it seems quite reminiscent of that time. But moving on, we also said Mike Smith must play well in order for them to have a chance. Overall, just over a .900 save percentage, which isn't great, but that doesn't tell the whole story. If we take out the really, really bad game 1, he's rocking a .915. I mean,
that's average. That's good enough, especially when guy on the other end's playing like an AHLer.
What happened there?
I have no idea. How Jacob Markstrom went from an unbelievable goal. Even in round 1, all this talk was about Jake Ottinger, rightfully so, but Markstrom was no slouch in that series. I think he was like at a .930 or something, if I'm not mistaken. He was so good, but then he just turned into, I don't even know how to describe that performance, because he just seemed like he wasn't focused. Like, shots that he should be saving went in. Even when he was playing the puck behind the net, he would give it away. I think there was a couple of goals that were a direct result of him misplaying the puck behind the net. And that's not something you usually expect from a guy like him, who's a Vezina candidate.
This year he was a Vezina candidate. Kind of weirdly, Daryl Sutter was praising him all series too. I watched a lot of the post-game pressers, and he kept saying Markstrom had a great game. And I don't know if that's him trying to keep his confidence up.
I think that's what it is.
Because he knows Vladar cannot come in and save this team.
Yeah.
You think that's what it was?
I think it is. That's what it was, because I think we all knew that he wasn't playing well, but Daryl Sutter's got to kind of, front in the media that things are maybe better than they seem to keep the confidence up, like you said.
Yeah, I mean, as we break this series down more and more, I mean, the Calgary Flames and Edmonton Oilers were quite similar on a lot of stats. In goals for, expected goals for, shots on goal, goals above expected, they're all right there with each other. Chances, high danger chances. So what does this tell me? The main differences were goaltending, which we just talked about, and number 2, it's the big players for Edmonton came to play.
Yeah.
We always said this about the Calgary Flames, or you know what? I said this about the Calgary Flames is I know Gaudreau and Tkachuk had a career year, but coming into this playoffs, it just didn't seem like they had that guy like the Matthews, McKinnon, McDavid, who can like take a series over when it matters the most, which is what we saw number 97 do. If we look at the points that the big 3 put up in Calgary, I mean, I don't even know if we can call them the big 3 after this series. Tkachuk, we'll give it to him. 3 goals, 3 points. Not bad.
Well, if you look past that one game, though, he only had, I think, 3 or 4 points the rest of the series.
No, he only had 3 points the whole series. After that 3-goal performance, he had nothing.
Oh, that's right. Okay, even worse.
Yeah, Elias Lindholm, 1 goal and 2 points. I'm sorry, that's not good enough. Johnny Gaudreau did not score a goal in 5 games against the Edmonton Oilers and had 3 points. That is bad. He is their quintessential example of primary scoring. If he doesn't score, who scores on that team?
Yeah.
Right? And then when you look at the other side, a lot of names are very underrated on Edmonton because how well 97 played. Look at Leon Draisaitl in this series. He went off 17 points in 5 games. Evander Kane did he average over a goal a game in this series? He had 2 hat tricks or 1 hat trick?
It was unbelievable.
When it comes down to it, the Edmonton Oilers' biggest players came to play, and the ones in Calgary were nowhere to be found. And when you get to the second round, the Western Conference Final, the Stanley Cup Finals, if your big players don't play, you lose, right? You might be able to squeak by in the first round. If your best players don't play well, you can rely on secondary scoring, which is what I think Calgary did against Dallas. But man, if this line doesn't score, they have no shot.
Well, and I don't know why. I was talking to somebody about this, and they brought up a good point. They said the majority of time that top line played was against McDavid, and I know Elias Lindholm is a sulky candidate, but if you're trying to match up your best players against their best players, which is normally a fine thing to do, but if your depth isn't performing, which it wasn't for Calgary, who's scoring for you? And you have Michael Backlund, who is one of the, I would say, a really good shutdown center. If McDavid's going to get his 4 points a game, might as well at least try and free up your offense to try and do some damage when they're not on the ice. I thought that was an interesting call by Daryl Sutter to try and match up the Lindholm line against McDavid when they couldn't get scoring. That third line, I think Toffoli was kind of brutal these playoffs. Not necessarily what they were looking for when they traded for him. So I thought that was like a puzzling strategy to take, matching up your best players when your secondary guys you would need to perform in that case weren't. And on the other side, I thought Woodcroft made a pretty brilliant decision by stacking that first line with Kane, Draisaitl, and McDavid. Is that the best line in hockey?
If they're playing together, there's no question.
Yeah, exactly. And Draisaitl was basically on one leg. I think Woodcroft realized this guy can't drive play on his own if he can't skate properly. Mm-hmm. So might as well just put them all together. Let Draisaitl just get into good spots and make plays. If you have McDavid just buzzing around, kind of creating all the offense, I think that was a great call. I think he kind of showed why they had so much success in the second half of the season and why he deserved to get that job. I think that was a really, really smart decision. And maybe people would be saying, well, of course, it's an easy decision to make. You have 2 of the best players in the world, just put them together. But they had been playing apart for a lot of the season, so to bring them back together under these circumstances, I thought was pretty smart.
Yeah, no, I agree. But bringing back to Michael Backlund, the only thing I can see is that if you do choose to match him up against the McDavid line, does that mean he now has to play 26 minutes a night? Could that have been a reason why they didn't go with that?
That could have been. That could have certainly been a reason. I mean, Michael Backlund had a good series, so I don't think leaving him out there for that long would have been a huge issue. But that is probably, when you think about it, maybe one of the reasons why that was the case. Because I guess if you're going to get offense against McDavid and you're going to have those guys on the ice, you might as well be your best players. But it wasn't really working.
Yeah, I mean, even if you decide to match up Michael Backlund half the time against McDavid and then the other half you give to arguably the best line in hockey this year in Lindholm, Kachuk, and Gaudreau. Times to play against the third and fourth line, you do that. But it even seemed like when they were playing in the Saddle Dome, is it still called the Saddle Dome?
Yeah.
When they were playing in the Saddle Dome, when Sutter had a chance to make like offensive zone matchups, when there was like face-offs in the offensive zone, McDavid's on, they bring out the Lindholm line. And half of the time they're spent in their own zone. That line never has time to generate offense. Yeah, I mean, I always thought Daryl Sutter was one of the best coaches in the league. I still think he is. I think he'll win the Jack Adams this year. I just think he got out-coached.
Yeah, which is kind of impressive on Woodcroft's part, being a rookie coach. I think the Flames will be back. I think Daryl Sutter will obviously be back, but I think hopefully they'll make the adjustments that they need to moving forward. Kind of like the Leafs had to make their adjustments after they got out-coached by Bruce Cassidy a couple times. Hopefully, I guess for Flames fans' sake, something similar will happen. I mean, it was Keefe that made the changes, but I'm sure Daryl Sutter's capable of adapting.
Yeah, something that Daryl Sutter said before the game that ended on Game 5, like in the pregame conferences, where they asked him, like, are your guys just not playing well enough? And he said, maybe our guys are doing all they can. They're playing well. We're just getting beat by a team that's playing better.
That's
and
true.
I also think that's just a good example of what happened here. Connor McDavid is, without a doubt, the best player in the league, and he is playing at the highest level he has ever played at, and quite possibly the highest level anyone listening to this podcast has ever seen any player play ever.
Yeah.
Right? When you go up against a guy playing this well, I mean, sometimes you're just going to get beat by a hotter team.
It's true.
Yeah,
it's true.
Maybe we wonder why that might happen. There's a lot of narratives that come out of this series now that it's ended, especially with Johnny Gaudreau having a big payday coming soon. Do the Calgary Flames want to pay for a guy that's going to cost them, I don't know, maybe 10.5, 11 when he can't perform in the playoffs? And it's not the first time that this has happened. Johnny Hockey has been known to disappear in the playoffs.
I mean,
does that affect his value?
It probably won't, because he's still in the open market. There's still going to be teams that want him. So I think if there's a bidding war for him, that drives the price up regardless. I mean, he did have 6 points in 5 games, but 3 of those came in that first game. I think he definitely got outshone, is the word, by McDavid and Draisaitl. Didn't look good. They put up double-digit points, a couple points every game. It doesn't look good. I think he's still a really good player. I don't think, like you said, I don't think he can be the guy on a team. I don't think he can break a game. That's something. He's a really good player, though. He'll get paid this summer.
Yeah, no, I
don't know by who, though.
I agree he'll get paid, but there is something to be said in a hard salary cap league where if you're going to pay a guy upwards of 10% of the cap, he better be a game breaker. Like, he better be a guy who can take the game over. And that's one of the biggest criticisms against the Mitchell Marner contract, which, I mean, he is proving wrong this year, but not the time to talk about that. If you're going to pay him $11 million, I don't think you can afford for him to do what he did this series.
Well, like, if he's not going to go to a contender, because a contender can't pay him next year, so he'll go to a team where they're going to be paying him to get into the playoffs.
That's true.
So if he does this job like a New Jersey, then he'd be worth the money to them.
I even heard the Flyers, which blows my mind. I don't know why.
I'm not surprised. The Flyers they think they're good.
Why would anybody want to go to that team where it is now?
Well,
I don't know.
I mean, if he can secure that money, like, why wouldn't you? That's an interesting conversation. Like, if you were, there's like a little sidebar. If you were a Johnny Gaudreau or Nazem Kadri, a really, really good player playing on a really good team who's coming up for a contract, would you chase sort of the money and take the highest offer, or would you maybe sacrifice a few million a year? Not a few million a year, maybe $1 million a year to play on a team you could win?
I've thought about this a lot. I think when you're a player that is that high caliber and is guaranteed to be making anything north of 8, sacrificing $1 million, although over 6 years does come down to $6 million a year, $6 million overall, I think I would still take the pay cut in order to play on a very good team. However, if I am a type of player that makes 1.5, asking me to sacrifice $1 million to play on a contender would never. I would never do that. But if I'm Nazem Kadri this summer, I'm looking to go to a contender. He's going to take. If it is a team-friendly deal for him is $8 million. With the way he's playing right now,
it is.
I would take that over 10. Honestly, I know that hockey players work their whole lives to get here, and you're asking them to sacrifice a huge percentage of their future value. But, I mean, when you're making that much money, don't you want to play on a team that has a chance?
Yeah, I tend to agree, at least me sitting here and not being a player. But, like, I don't know, it would be tough. I think if I was actually there, it would be difficult to turn down upwards like a possible anywhere from $7 to $8 million more.
Yeah, like don't get me wrong. If I'm Johnny Gaudreau and the Calgary Flames are offering me 7.5, 8, and the Philadelphia Flyers are offering me 12, I'm going to Philly.
Yeah.
But if the Philadelphia Flyers are offering me 9 and Calgary's offering me 7.5, and the term is the same, you know what? I would think about it. I would probably end up going to Calgary just because Johnny has also never won something before, right? But if Johnny had 3 cups, yeah, I would go to Philly too.
Yeah, I guess that's also true. If you have the cups already and you don't want to win, well, not that you don't want to win, but that you have an opportunity to make life-changing money, yeah, you're going in for the money.
Yeah, to be very clear, this is one thing I'm very passionate about. I would never hold a player, the word's not accountable. I would never get mad at a player for quote unquote selling out for the money, because it's not a sellout at all. Being someone who had played hockey a high level growing up, not anymore obviously because we're on this podcast and not playing in the NHL.
Mm-hmm.
You don't understand the amount of work that parents put in to have these kids play. It's the 7 days a week on the ice. It's the extra shooting practice. It's the extra power skating practice. It's the extra figure skating practice, all just to have a maybe 2-3% chance of getting to the NHL. So many things have to go right. And then for a casual fan to be sitting on his couch and getting upset for a player for taking $2 million more a year over 7 years, it just blows my mind that you don't understand why a player won't sacrifice $14 million.
Well, because they want their team to win. So
Yeah.
obviously they're going to be upset if a guy leaves.
No, that's fine. You can be upset. What upsets me is when these people on their couches call these players like snakes and they don't care about their team.
Oh.
And like, that's just wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they're fans for a reason. I don't know. That's definitely not logical, but you can see why it happens.
Yeah.
Okay, well, wrapping up that sidebar, we'll kind of keep tabs on what the Canucks are. So not the Canucks, the Flames are up to this offseason, because talked about Gaudreau. They also have Tkachuk to sign.
Yep.
Who's an RFA. That'll be really interesting. He's going to be making at least $9 million because that's what his qualifying offer is.
Yep.
So it's going to be pretty interesting to see if they make him all fit and who has to give, or if they have to kind of make a really tough decision. It will be cool to kind of see how that kind of develops.